What's up, Lab Code Agents? Welcome to another Real Lab. This episode is sponsored by our friends at Ylopo. Check them out at ylopo.com and mention Lab Code Agents to get $500 off your setup. I'm joined today by Kris Lindahl and Kevin Markarian. We're going to talk to Kris about what it means to be a leader and how it's led to his own success. We'll discuss often overlooked factors like a commitment to being a better person, transparency, and being comfortable with vulnerability. Kris, how's it going today, bud?
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So just a little bit about Kris for the people under a rock who haven't heard. Kris is the founder of Minnesota's premier independent real estate agency, the Kris Lindahl Real Estate Team. In 2014, you were Minnesota's, that was your first year being Minnesota's #1 real estate agent. In 2017, your team was America's #1 RE/MAX team.
Yeah, we were the #1 RE/MAX results team, which was the biggest brokerage in the RE/MAX system.
Wow.
So we were top five. We were top 5 at RE/MAX before we left, and now we're solo.
Yeah. So yeah, in 2018, you embraced your own model, which crushes, and started your own brokerage. And let's see, let me get these numbers right, just so people have a reference. 800 homes in 2017, and you'll do more than 1,500.
That's right. Yeah, it's amazing to think about that. I was just doing a live thing on radio here locally, and I was telling the person that I've been working with for years, and I said to her, I said, it's amazing. When we first started working together, I thought 150 in a year was really a big accomplishment. Now I look at, the last 30 days and we've done over 150 transactions in that period of time. It's just amazing how different things are now,
Dude, that is massive. So talking about leadership and how it's leading to your own success, what makes you the authority to talk about this today?
Yeah, great question. I think the big thing is I look at my transition through business, and I still consider myself a student. By no means do I have any of this all figured out, but I've committed to becoming a better person every single day. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people are scared to do. In real estate, we're so focused on what's the next lead platform, what's the next lead source. Is it going to be ISAs? Is it going to be this? Is this company going to take our business? Is that company going to take our business? And at the end of the day, I look at two things. One is, if I'm a strong and better person every single day, no one can take that from me. And two is, the brand that I develop, no matter what the change is in the industry, I can adopt and change because I have a brand. And I think we're so focused on all these external things that we can't control that we need to start to go back internal and do things that we actually can control. And listen, I have my bad days too. I mean, I don't want to sit on here and say that I've got it all figured out. I'm human as well, but every day that I wake up, I'm committed to try to be a better person. And I think that's the first step in any time you look at, going from, and I get that, everyone watching is at different parts of their business. Some are teams, some are agents, some are small brokerages, and some are large companies. But the one thing is if you're going to be leading people, whether that's your assistant, your team, your brokerage, whatever it is, if you don't have a solid foundation, then you're going to teach them to be mediocre as well.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
So I have a question. So you say you try to become a better person every single day. What are some things that you do to make yourself a better person every day?
Yeah, great question. And so everyone has different ways that they learn, that they do things. I mean, there was someone recently in our company that talked about putting, everyone has those different types of vision boards, but she pasted something on the top of her ceiling when she woke up. It was the first thing that she looked at. We have other people within our company where it's positive affirmation. Like, we have others that read out loud, because when you read out loud or talk out loud, it activates emotion. And then you have what I just did a video on one of our pages. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to focus on really small wins, because that releases dopamine. And so every day that you do those things, those small wins. Do I have losses every day? Yes. But I look at those as learning opportunities, and I focus on that side of it that's a win. Because when you have a loss, there's something to win every single time. Like, either I made a big mistake and I can't do that next time, or here's what I learned from this. And every day, and I think there's a lot of companies out there that talk about failure and like fail forward and we're always failing. And for us, like, we're just looking at these things as like, listen, every time that Kris Lindahl makes a mistake, I learn from it and I have more intelligence to come back next time stronger.
So besides making a mistake, what are some small wins that people can have, like in their, as agents or brokers or team leaders, whatever, in their daily life?
Right. So yeah, great question. So, I mean, it can be personal or professional. I mean, right. So they in our business now, because of how wired we are to technology and to the consumer, that the two almost translate over the top of each other. But it could be something small that says, I got to carve out an hour to spend with my daughter or my son, or we went to this, or I went and watched that sporting event, or I went and spent 2 hours with family or spouse or with some friends. And so it could be personal, or business could just be, I made 10 calls today and one person answered. Or it could be as extreme as I made 500 calls and 40 people answered. So the other thing I've learned about business and about life is people have different capacities. And so just because one person might make 500 calls, which is extreme, and another makes 10, doesn't mean that they're both not satisfied and content or happy with where they are. They just have different capacity and maybe they have different goals and visions. And so I just look at very small things as wins. They don't have to be large. It doesn't have to be like, hey, I sold 10 houses today. It could be, I met with 4 people, or I had a conversation on Facebook Live. I recorded a video, because a lot of people are scared to be on video. So I took out my phone, even though I was freaked out, and I did one video and I sent it to my past clients, or I sent it to this person. They can be small wins. And once you start to get that momentum rolling, dopamine starts releasing. The next thing you know, it's like, wow, this is amazing. I had the best month ever. And where the mistake that most in real estate and business make, they have a great month and then they forget why they had a great month, or it goes into crazy follow-up and like, I've got a firefight putting these deals together, and they take this roller coaster ride of up and down, up and down. And that's why I said just those small wins, because you don't have to have major wins every day, but you need to keep the momentum going.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds great. It sounds like you and your team are like big students of self-development and becoming better. That's obviously leading to your success, right?
100%. I mean, I think that, I look at other companies that are so caught up on, measuring everything on KPIs, how many dials, how many leads, what's your conversion rate? And they forget that we're leading human beings and that they have hearts and they have feelings and they have emotions. We have to invest in that side. And every single time, and this is very cliche, but culture is going to win every single time. And I think that we've started to get so far the other direction where it's like, what are these actual numbers and statistics? That what happens is you have this major turnover, and you see it in real estate companies all the time, where it's like, I can't keep anyone here. Everyone's leaving. Everyone's coming and going. No one's converting any business. Well, just try to invest in them as people first before treating them like they're just a number. Because people will feel when they're a number. And in our company, like, no one's a number. I'm available to everyone. I care so much about the 60 families in our organization. Like, that's a big thing. And if you ask most other companies and most other leaders, they're going to tell you how many agents they have, and I'm going to tell you how many families I'm in charge of.
That's awesome, man. So it's awesome. It's like you're humanizing it. I mean, a lot of times you're right. We think about conversion rates and things like that, and it becomes almost it's almost impersonal. So having that culture. So what do you do? What are some ways to maintain that culture? Because obviously, I mean, you said you had 150 transactions in the last 3 months. I mean,
no,
that's like 1 month.
Last 30 days. Wow. Okay. So that's unbelievable, right? I mean, it's like crazy. So first of all, do you have like an army of people like that are out there just doing transactions? And how do you maintain such a great culture?
We have 40 agents. So 40 agents to do 150 transactions. Our per agent production is some of the top in the country. And the reason that is because of the culture, but it's also where we run a really flat organization. Like, I don't think I'm some crazy CEO that needs to sit on, I mean, we're all equals. We're all human beings, and we're transparent with each other, and we're open. We have fun. We celebrate wins together. We celebrate tough times together. We come together in any sort of turmoil and operate as a team. And I think when you look at like group thinking in the world, there's 2 ways it can go. One is you could end up in rioting, right? So you could end up in a big riot. Anytime there's group thinking, you can take innocent people that have never committed a crime in their life, and they're caught on video throwing rocks through a window because of the power of group thinking. You can also take group thinking in a positive way and go and have a positive thing. And the one thing that never sat well with me was in the traditional real estate brokerage model. When I was at my previous brokers, when I was an individual agent, everyone's in competition with everyone. And so no one really wants to help you. No one really wants to help support a cause together. You know, you kind of bicker and talk at the copy machine or over water, coffee, or whatever you do, but no one truly cares about you. And no one really cares where you're going because they're all competing. Within our environment, there's enough opportunities for everyone that everyone's going the same direction and everyone's willing to step up and help each other at any time. And when you have really good culture, what starts to happen is it takes a life of its own. Listen, the culture in our organization has nothing to do with me anymore. It has to do with the group. That's it. The group is far stronger than anything that Kris Lindahl can say or do.
That's awesome. How did you figure this out and discover this whole process? Or was there something integral, a book you read or something that you embraced, or some experience that you embraced that made this happen?
You know, it's a great question. I think it's just, you know, every day, you know, I'm constantly reading podcasts and trying to figure out like how to be a better person. Brendan Burchard was a really big help, and I'm a certified high performance coach with him, but I don't coach. I just did it to become a better leader, which was fascinating because I showed up to that event and everyone else was trying to build this coaching business. And I said, hey, I'm just here to become a better leader for my company. And so every day I'm trying to figure out what are the things that Kris can improve on? What are the things that our leadership team can improve on? And we're just, you know, like you had said earlier, like we're just very transparent. And we have culture where it's like, if there's an issue or something that needs to be corrected, let's just bring it out. Let's get to the conflict and fix it.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Very good.
So it sounds like, I mean, the culture is amazing. Are there any direct examples of like, do you guys do events? are you guys in the office doing trainings? Like what are some things that you do specifically to maintain that?
Yeah, great question. So last week, last Tuesday, we took the whole day off and went to, we're in the Minneapolis, St. Paul, sort of our market's Minnesota, but also Western Wisconsin. And so we're right kind of close to the border of Western Wisconsin for those that don't know exactly where we are. And there's a river called the St. Croix River there. And so we went up north into the kind of Wisconsin area, and we took the whole day off and rented canoes and kayaks, no cell phone service, took our entire company and floated down the river all day. We stopped at sandbars. We brought lunch. We had drinks. We had a good time, and everyone's laughing. You know, it was good to connect. We brought our videographers with to capture the moments and just share, you know. It was fun. I fell in. I hurt my heel. Everyone's laughing at me. My shoes were floating down the river. But it's light, you know, and so as much real estate as we sell and as much real estate as so many people watch and sell, this is still life. You have to enjoy it. Like, it's not just about selling houses and how many houses. It's about connecting and building friendships and being connected to the human beings that essentially we're all together trying to make a difference in this world. And I think back to your point about like what culture means and what we're actually doing with it and what other events, the most significant gain that we've seen in culture happens offline. It doesn't happen at the office. So it's, you know, and for some of you, it might be a Slack channel. For others, it might be a private Facebook group, whatever that is, wherever you can bring a community together that you work with on something that they can communicate with outside of the office. That's where it builds, because successful real estate agents are in appointments. It becomes sort of lonely. And you know, and in our organization, we have people that are really successful. Well, it's sometimes hard to go out and tell all your family and friends how much success you're having, but you could go in your private group of your team, your brokerage, and say, you know what, today was just awesome. I loved it. I can't brag about that on my public Facebook page, but I just want to share these big wins with you.
What's cool about that, I know Sunit has a question, is you're creating a comfort zone, man.
Totally.
You're creating a comfort zone for your people, which is so awesome.
Well, one correction, I'm not creating it, they're creating it.
True.
Yeah, I mean it's everyone in there, and it's self-regulated by them, and we have just some amazing people in there. And I think one of the other things that I would share with that before I get to Sunny's question is, one of the things I learned is, like, when you're growing a company, whatever size it is, you have to really figure out what you stand for first. Like, whether that's core values or a mission statement or whatever that is for you, because if you don't know what your organization stands for or what you stand for or where you're going, then no one else will either. And, you know, you can go on Google and steal someone else's core values or mission statement and paste them all over your wall, or they'll be on a frame that, you know, no one ever reads, and you can pretend that that's what you stand for. But when you literally live and breathe it, you share it with the consumers, you share it with your team, you share it with everyone inside and out the organization, they know exactly what you stand for. So like for us, like be generous is the #1 core value at Kris Lindahl Real Estate. It's exactly why I'm on this right now. It's exactly why I did other interviews today locally. It's why I created a Be Generous Facebook real estate page, which is constantly giving education, because I'm a firm believer that the more that we give, the better that things are going to come back to us. And so I'm not asking for anything and anything that I ever do. I'm not trying to sell anything. I just want to continue to put that out there. So what starts to happen is when you have an organization where you're bringing and hiring people in that match those core values in your vision, well, then what shows up is a lot of like-minded people that are all going the same direction. And so for us, it's not about hiring really high producers that have great production that are super attractive to the business that we're in. It's about finding the people that match our core values and have the personality that fit in our organization. And I think that's the mistake too often is leaders in the industry are trying to bring production because they see dollars first. But for us, I would rather bring in the right people and have everyone comfortable, have great culture, and be able to make a difference at a really high level together than have crazy disruptive people that are trying to do nuts things that affect the culture. And so once you have a really solid foundation for what you stand for in your organization, and you start to cast a vision to everyone in that organization of where you're going, it's a lot easier to get to the next level when everyone's on the same page.
Wow, like that is just speaking to me like directly. My personal business, every word you say, I'm all so good. So, I just saw you lift up your coffee cup. Can I see that again?
I'm at this radio play. I don't even know what it says. Huh, funny. It's it made me a green tea though. I don't drink coffee.
Okay, cool. So one thing, right? So let's kind of talk about that as underneath the hood of an amazing, successful person.
That's really funny that says that.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice it.
It's a good segue, man. We usually find a deeper purpose and a huge why. So we find that people that are at a high level are driven by the sole purpose of getting better and better, which we kind of talked about, right? There's a few factors to having a clear vision. So let me ask you, are you spiritual? Do you meditate, go into solitude, anything that lets you reconnect with yourself? Well,
one of the things I do is it's and it's so many, leaders and so many experts in the field. It's the morning, right? It's like, it's how you start your morning that, it's that positive focus, watching positive things, having a positive mindset when you start your day. I get up around 5 a.m, work out, I listen to podcasts, I do positive things, I watch positive YouTube videos, maybe I'll go for a walk and take in some fresh air just to get some air. And I am ready to absolutely crush it by 7 a.m. It's funny, like our leadership team, I know my personality, I know my strengths and weaknesses. I overload everyone. And so between last night and this morning, our social media and our creative director were like, I got to just take the rest of the day off just to digest what you just gave us. And so it's because I start in such a positive mindset that it doesn't matter what's going to happen. Nothing is going to rock me or take me off where the direction that I want to go because of the personal development that I've done for years and the positive focus that I have. And so anytime in business, especially when you're in a position like our company is now in this industry, there's going to be haters. And there are going to be people within the industry that say we're doing it all wrong. They can't stand Kris. He's an egomaniac. All he cares about himself, or the team is selfish, or whatever it is. I see comments, I hear things all the time. I worry for most of those people because they're the problem, not me. And I think a lot of times as leaders, when we have people that are having conversations about us, and I was a victim of this when it first started, is I start to doubt myself and I start to have insecurities like, am I really the problem? Am I really an egomaniac? Why am I really doing this? But the further that we get along in our journey of like personal development and that positive focus, you start to realize that, listen, people having conversations about us is great. It's actually free marketing. They can go tell their brokerage office like, hey, they're doing this, they're doing that. That means they're playing defense and we're always playing offense, and we're playing it in a very positive way. And I learned a long time ago that speaking to that small percentage of haters is not the business and not the people you want to be speaking to. You want to speak to the large amount of people that support you. And those kind of things happen when you start your day right.
So speaking of that, and that's so true. I mean, there's a saying, the more haters you have usually means the more successful you are.
That's right.
But you mentioned how your team gets overwhelmed. Like you have all this stuff that you're throwing out. I literally just took like this many notes. So as you see me turning, I'm like seriously writing stuff out. So I've got like a ton of questions here, but I want to ask you, you mentioned a couple of things I think are really important for people that are watching and want to get into your head and learn about all the things you've done to be successful. You said the morning's important. You said you watch YouTube videos, you watch podcasts. Can you name a couple of those that you watch?
Your connection cut out there for a second.
What YouTube videos and podcasts are you into, man?
Yeah, so I love Brendan Burchard's videos, and he just does some really, really good stuff. From a podcast standpoint, I mean, I obviously listen to Brendan's. He doesn't update it as much. I've listened to Tony Robbins. You know, basically what I've done is I've just done research over leadership podcasts and what the top ones are. And I have like 50 leadership podcasts in my Apple podcast. And I just go through them. And if I'm interested in it, I listen. If not, I skip over it. And I had one recently that was really fascinating. I'm just going to share a really quick story. I was listening to this yesterday when I was driving, and it has to do with the Southwest Airlines CEO, which they've been profitable for 40, 50, 60 years in a row. Southwest Airlines. And there was an older lady on the plane, and I don't know if this made news attention, and maybe some of you have heard about it, but the lady was having trouble get off the plane. And so because of the culture that they've developed at Southwest Airlines, this flight attendant went back and said, "Would you like to dance?" And they did the waltz off the plane, and she danced the whole way down to get off the plane. And those are the kind of things that like I think about like in leadership, like no one was watching. The CEO of Southwest Airlines wasn't there. This is a flight attendant there that literally like helped this lady, probably brought her back to when she was younger. Maybe it was her husband or whoever it was, like remember like the dancing, the fun, the joy, and like helped her get off the plane. And those are the kind of things that I like to listen to in podcasts and videos that are just inspiring, because every day I'm trying to get better as well. And there's times, I remember 2 years ago, I wrote down that one thing that I need to improve on as a person is I used to be in the moment, and then 10 minutes later, I'd be like, I wish I would have done something different. I was in that moment. I wish I would have stepped up, maybe open that door or help that person with their groceries or whatever it may be. And then I'd look back and I go, why didn't you do that, Kris? Why didn't you do that? So I started right now for 2 years. When you're in the moment, do what your mind tells you to do. And so now every time I'm in the moment and my mind goes, I don't know if you should do that or not. That might be uncomfortable. I go.
That's awesome.
I go every single time now. I wait, and sometimes it's awkward, and maybe someone's a half a block away, and they're struggling with a walker or a wheelchair, and they're coming into a restaurant. I'll just stand there and wait. And used to do that. I used to go, well, should I wait? Should I not? Should I go in? Yeah. And now, like, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable because I want to do the right thing. And I'm not looking for any publicity. I don't say who I am. It's just the right thing to do. And I think that's the key to measure good human beings, is when they're doing things when no one's watching. Because let's be honest, like when someone says like, hey, there's going to be, TV cameras all around you. Well, I've got to do the right thing. But it's when no one's watching that matters more.
That's so cool, man.
Love that.
You know what that reminds me of is what you were talking about earlier with regards to humanizing, getting on the same level with your team and creating, more of a human experience as opposed to numbers and things like that. And I want to relate it real quick to what you said about the Southwest passenger. That flight attendant, she empathized with that person. She felt where she was going through, and she made it fun, and she brought that person back into a comfortable area where she's not embarrassed about getting off the plane.
That's right. That's right.
It's the same thing that you're talking about with your team, and you're kind of putting people in their comfort zone. And that is like so cool. I'm getting chills at just thinking about it. I think it's beautiful, man. So that's great. I don't want to take over. I know Sunita has some questions, but I want to ask one thing, and I'll be quiet. You said you know your strengths and weaknesses. How did you find out what those are?
By failing. and by asking the people around you and being comfortable knowing that we're not good at everything. And I think the biggest mistake that real estate has made for so long is it's traditionally been an individual agent with maybe an assistant trying to do 75 different things, and maybe they're only great at 5 of them, and no one's willing to step up and say, you know what, I'm not very good here, or I need help here. And there's just so many people, and you see it all the time, there's greatness in so many real estate agents that aren't willing to take that step to get that assistant, to get that caller, to get that social media person, whatever, to get that technology. They just won't take that step. And they just think that, like, you know what, like, we're great, we're good, you know what, we're doing good business. And most people aren't willing to say, you know what, I'm not great here. And so when you live in a world of that transparency, like we talked about at the beginning, where you can literally stand up in front of your entire company and say, I'm not good right here. You don't want me in this seat. It's dangerous for our business. It's dangerous for our company. And it's dangerous for me. You want me in areas where I'm really strong, not really weak. And so, and that's, I think, a big reason why the team model in real estate has succeeded to the level that it has. Not because it's a fad or anything else. I think that the consumer just deserves more, and to have people that are strong in each of these seats.
Wow. That is, Kris, you are money, man. I'm loving this. I'm learning so much stuff. So let's talk about family with our last couple of minutes here. You know, I saw one of your billboards. Is that your daughter on there?
Yeah. I want to talk about that. That was amazing. So here's, you know, you talk about it's so funny. You talk about the small percentage of people that, you know, the haters or whatever else. I think the small percentage of people thought that I actually went and created a billboard with my daughter and put it up, which I didn't do. So what happened was our marketing team and marketing company that represents us, they surprised me for Father's Day and took the photo of Victoria, my daughter, and put it up on a billboard with her arms out, and it matched my pose that we've had on some of the billboards in the Twin Cities. And so it's just, you know what, to me, like, everything in my world is my daughter, Victoria. And so one other thing I did that I'll share real quick, that was obviously super important and super fun, and to get text and to stand in front of it with my daughter. But so Maya Moore, who is the WNBA All-Star from the Minnesota Lynx. So she's in Minnesota. She's with Jordan Brands. I put up 2 billboards in the Twin Cities, one in White Bear Lake and one in Rochester, which is about an hour and a half south. And it was the Maya Moore. She has like the arms out Jordan pose. And I started getting tagged on Twitter and in all these areas. People said, if anyone's willing to do this and to give back and to save Maya Moore, because the city of Minneapolis took it down after a day, it would be Kris Lindahl. So I saved the Maya Moore thing. And I think one of the really important things in the world today, I didn't do that for any sort of self-gain, other than our core value is to be generous and to give back to the community. And I think equality is so important in today's world, where, like, 10 years ago, you think about young female, you know, athletes, the only thing they had to look up to for the most part was the NBA, right? So male basketball players. And now with the WNBA, one of the big things that I wanted to do is I wanted to put those up and just show little girls and of course my daughter that anything is possible. And it was just neat to see girls showing up and taking pictures of the Maya Moore billboard and bringing their coaches and doing those things. And this is what life's all about. I realized that, like, our real estate company is in a very unique spot in the country, that we're able to do things that most aren't. And so just remembering where we came from and to give back to the community that supports us and to make a difference. Most people wouldn't take a paid billboard and put a Maya Moore image up there with no credit of their own on it. And so those are the kind of things we're trying to do, and trying to do the right thing in our community and to make a difference. And so we're just in a unique position where we can do some of that.
That's awesome, man. So I know we're almost out of time. I have one question here before we wrap it up. So if somebody's listening and they want to take their business to the next level, kind of, you know, to get to a point where they're doing some of the things that you're doing, what's one thing that you would say? Let's say it's a team leader or someone that is just, they're there, they have to break through that plateau. What's one thing that you would say that they should do to take their business to the next level?
Mindset. It's 100% mindset. I mean, you look at the most successful people and they have one thing, they have grit, right? Like, no one's telling them to get up. I mean, I look at the X factor and everyone in our organization and every organization that I've seen, that's the one thing. They, in the morning, No one's telling them, hey, you've got to go call leads, or you've got to prospect, or you've got to go to work, or you've got to work out, or you've got to be at home, or whatever it is. You've got to have that grit and that tenacity. It's like, I'm going. And anytime that you meet someone and they have that firepower, you can immediately tell that they're going to be successful, because you're like, I'm betting on that person just because of that.
Can that be taught, or do you have to be born with that?
That's a really good question. We're still trying to figure that out. You know, I think it's I think there's a way that some of it can be taught, but I mean, you get someone that's naturally just super competitive and has high drive. I don't think that was taught. You know, I mean, you look at that and it's like, man, some of the people in our organization, both female and male, like they just drive and drive and drive and drive. And then there's others that, you know what, that are a lot slower. They're comfortable where they're at. They're successful. But some people want to sell 150 houses in our organization, and others are comfortable selling 40. And I just think that when we look to hire people, you know, if they have that grit and that tenacity, or, you know, the other part to that too is a chip on your shoulder, right? Either something when you were younger happened, or someone told you couldn't do it, or you were at a previous organization where they didn't bet on you, or they didn't believe that you were going to be successful, and you have something to prove. That's the other part of that grit and that tenacity. It's like, I have this chip on my shoulder, and I'm going to prove to you that I could have been successful there, or that I'm going to win at the next level. And those kind of things, you hear those stories all the time where someone said one comment to someone and it changed the way that they think. And I just remind everyone, the words that we say are so powerful, and just make sure that you use the words in the right direction, especially when you're leading people. Because if you say the wrong things, you can deflate someone, and really you could affect their entire life.
Kris, dude, this has been great. I sent you a friend request on Facebook. Please accept it. We can chat more.
That's mine too, man. I'm gonna send you one.
Yeah, send him one, brother.
Awesome.
If people out there on Lab Coat Agents and Facebook land want to get a hold of you, what do they do?
Yeah, so they can send me a Facebook message. My friends are usually over 5,000, and they're always usually capped out. I've got a couple spots right now, but if anyone sends me a Facebook message, there's that other folder. I always open it up, and I personally read all my messages. And so if anyone needs help, advice, or anything for free, I'm not a coach. I don't charge anything. Like, I just want to give back and do the right thing. I'd be glad to answer questions for anyone that's watching or has things, including people in my market. It doesn't matter to me. I think it's just important to do the right thing and give back. So I'm here for anyone that needs me.
Kris is going to get bombarded.
That's okay. I'm used to it. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I have a bunch of pages I'm going to send you.
I love it.
Kris, thank you so much for being on. This was great. I learned so much. I can see Kevin's face. He's like, me, we're just all, wow. Thank you so much. Yeah, look at all those notes. Guys, next week, we'll have Brian Curtis talking about the unique aspects of his business. Kris, once again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Kris, man,
that was good stuff.
That was really generous. That was authentic. Loved it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, guys. See you next time.